Welcome once again to the Aussie Ideas Man, and the second and final rant about ensuring Brisbane has sufficient water, which will never actually happen. Nor am I filming from my phone, so I hope my lips move in time with the video frames. In part 1, I detailed how I would make Wivenhoe Dam store and retain more of what it catches, all done by rigorous earthworks, so nothing special. Now for the more out-of-the-box additional solution I suggested. This relates to catching more water and has to span far beyond the Wivenhoe's catchment area, which it does in abundance, using the catchments of 3 significant rivers nearby. You will need to see a map of the southeast Queensland region to follow me on this one, or you will only be confused. I hope I gave you enough visuals in part 1 to avoid any brain straining, but this one will need more mental exertion for sure. Between the Gold Coast and the Brisbane River, then out to sea, we have a terrain that is conducive to creating a massive dam where it is presently the sea. This will take a lot of explaining, and this is what the single sentence government reply covered. They said nothing about Wivenhoe Works and Poohard, the new lake I suggested. We could include further north than the Brisbane River, but we need to stop there because it's an important shipping lane that needs to stay. So I stopped just south of it. There are 3 main rivers that I include, which are from south to north: the Coomera, Logan and Albert, with the latter merging with the Logan before going out to sea. I could include the Nerang River to the south, but it is also used too much as a boating channel for the many boat owners on the Gold Coast, so I omit it. The sea east of these rivers' estuaries has nearby islands that can be used to enclose a freshwater lake, thus making it inexpensive to do so because the distances to infill with causeways are relatively short and in shallow waters. As a carrot, I even suggested a way to actually make money out of the public works venture. I will get to that later, but now show you where I chose to build the causeways. In this next map, I have brought the southern works in red closer to the northern works, and added an insert for the weir that spans north and south Stradbroke. There are 7 short joins to close off below the Coomera River, and most are under existing bridges where concrete walls are all that is needed. I estimate there is about 4 kilometres of causeway to build. On the northern end there are also 7 causeways, with the longest being merely around 5 kilometres, and I estimate about 23 kilometres in total. Then the weir is a 3 kilometre causeway with 200 metres of weir and a bridge to construct. The roughly 34 kilometres in all is merely about the length of Lake Wivenhoe, so there is more than enough spoil to make the new lake when you factor in its widening and deepening. At present, take fresh water into the sea without conserving it, and it comes from an enormous catchment area south of Wivenhoe's, mainly some of the northern section of the Gold Coast hinterland and further north. If we hold the rivers back from merging with the salt water, all we need do is pump it to nearby Brisbane. We're never in a drought situation, or if our population keeps exploding without it being curtailed. Pumping is relatively inexpensive. In the area I marked out for a large freshwater lake, there is no commercial shipping, and only recreational boats use it, which are easily towed on trailers and can be moved from lake to sea with ease, so we can separate the fresh water from the seawater without impediment. My plan was to take what soil and rocks were removed from Wivenhoe and enclose the area with the causeways that joined mainland to islands to the larger North and South Stradbroke Islands, which we also join. These 2 islands create the eastern boundary and remove the need for probably 60% of causeway construction. The short water hops between other islands to them would use the dam spoils to make roads, using the rocks either side to protect the soil from what little waves we get in this sheltered region. In the usual way causeways are made. This is far cheaper than building long bridges, and importantly separates the 2 kinds of water that will eventually ensue. They would be only about 1 metre higher than the highest tides recorded. Between North and South Stradbroke would be a short section with a weir arrangement, where a small bridge for road traffic went over. All overflow would have this one exit to sea, so road traffic needs to be above it. It would only need to be a distance of 200 metres or so, nothing exorbitant. This is where the constant river flows would always be pushing out water to sea, and over time the percentage of salt water would reduce until there was nothing but fresh water left in the lake. The highest tide would be below this weir to stop any sea re-entering the lake, but the suggestion went deeper than that. Before I say how, I'll add that Brisbane has recently dug solid rock for tunnels and is presently still digging for the new rail underground, and is wasting opportunities to use the rock to fix this ongoing problem. Much like the black balls, these are after my suggestion, but should have been motivation to adopt it. They still have the problem. Nothing has been done. This is what else I suggested. The islands are mostly uninhabited, and those that are only accessed by inconvenient and expensive ferries. There are probably under 20,000 living off the mainland, yet the islands could take 10 times that easily. People have cars on both their island and the mainland. If not, they take public transport or walk, neither of which is useful. If we get causeways, they can have one car and get to both Brisbane and the Gold Coast with speed and ease. Many more will move to the islands, and there will be a huge real estate boom for Gold Coast style living. If the government developed and sold the land that has become far more valuable, they would not only finance the works, but make enormous profits out of the whole venture, the Wivenhoe Dam works included. I also said that resorts and hotels would spring up all on the lakeside of the islands, as people like me prefer lakes to oceans for holidays, and being so large and flowing, swimming and boating need not be precluded. It would be a tourism mecca with a notable difference from the Gold Coast, which itself is still accessible. So, how was this received? Keep in mind, governments were polling us for ideas. I got a single sentence response that, after thanking me, just asked, but what would it do to the ecology? This was so banal that I determined not to suggest anything more to governments, and I'll explain myself. First, I had made enough of a case that to any person of average intelligence, they could see the general scope, outcome, and the benefits. They should have taken it and ran with it, without the need for more effort from me. Next, the extra information asked of me was thoughtless. The ecology is a saltwater ecosystem, mostly mangroves, with all the life forms that entails. The water is seawater, and the fish and such are saltwater fish. These life forms will either move or die. It doesn't take a Rhodes Scholar to realise that. But the coastline of Australia is massive, so there is room to move, and the Pacific Ocean is far bigger, so a few fish dying is insignificant. What is really annoying is that some government pen pusher kills a good idea on the basis that he thinks that a destroyed saltwater ecosystem can become no ecology at all. Did the suggestion even make it to a scientist? There are only a very few cases in the world where there is pretty much no ecology, and this particular region is not conducive to that happening. It is patently obvious that it will develop an ecosystem just like all the other lakes in Australia's eastern seaboard have. Freshwater fish will thrive, new birds will come when the others leave, mangroves will die, but trees and grasses will replace them. There is absolutely no logical reason to knock a good idea on the head because you want to keep that ecology that is so commonplace around here and does very little for society. We humans do better with lakes and their surrounds than mangrove swamps. He or she did not even consider they had the wherewithal to help make a better system, should nature fail to do it naturally, and they would have oodles of cash to do it with. The southern road access point is very close to Gold Coast suburbs like Hope Island, Sanctuary Cove and Paradise Point, for example, and their house values are mostly $1 million plus. The values on South Stradbroke are more like $200,000 on average. To the northern end, where it connects directly to the suburb of Redland Bay and easy access to Brisbane, house values are approximately $500,000. Yet the values on nearby Russell Island are that same 200 grand average. Both have a massive discrepancy in values simply because the islands are cut off from road traffic and the convenience it brings. Build the two roads and the values will rise to match those of their close neighbours. Returning to my mention of synergy in the first part, the waste material from Lake Wivenhoe provides the needed material for the roads that add value to island lots. The benefit of more water in Lake Wivenhoe becomes a second benefit of freshwater where there was none, simply lost to sea as rivers flowed freely. Not only that, it has a third benefit of a new demography between Brisbane and the Gold Coast. That is Miami Beach style, the envy of the world, and has an instant water supply for it. I mentioned that a desalination plant could be placed near both types of water, first helping the new lake to freshen, and then as a backup in drought to transfer treated seawater back in. That plant could be built by the massive profits from land sales. And now for one final thought. On all of this one-line response that asked about the ecology, I was not born yesterday and know that government may not have wanted me to know why they would not want to pursue this idea. I have been around long enough to identify one possible reason, and that is because it is Quandamooka country. Quandamooka, you ask? Google it. But briefly, it is our indigenous tribes that lived on these islands before white invasion, tongue-in-cheek. In July 2011, native title rights and interests have been granted them, which the Queensland government would have been privy to that happening while I was making the suggestion. They were probably smack in the middle of trying to prevent the feds from granting it. There is probably nothing more stifling for a project like this than having to deal with the interests of the remnants of the Quandamooka people. It would go straight into the too hard basket, and it wouldn't be prudent to inform me of such reasons, or many others like it that I may never figure out. Best to just say the ecosystem has unanswered questions, or at least one: what will happen to it? After July 2011, it may be too late to ever start the project. There is a common saying that those who can't do teach, but I find it more likely they just get a job in government, where ways to do nothing are always pursued. That's it from me on our unresolved water problem. I have other things to resolve. Bye for now and stay safe. That's it.